All rise for the pledge, please.
I'll follow up when I get a chance.
And pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll follow up with that.
Yeah, no, that's my copy.
Oh, that's
but
your
you
copy.
sent it to Steve. Okay.
All right,
Welcome
then I'm
to
gonna have
the,
write myself a note, and hopefully I
October 9th board meeting. We start off this the board meeting by recognizing the employee of the month. And most of the time the employee of the month is not here. But tonight we have her here tonight. Yeah. So it's Jackie Allen, and I'm going to read what the building inspector wrote about Jackie. Employee of the month recommendation. The building department was in need of additional help, and the mayor, the village administrator, and the village trustees were on board to remedy the situation. After many interviews, Jackie Allen was hired August 2013 as a clerk and assistant to Diane Greger at the front desk in the counter area. There is important and continuous communications daily with residents, contractors, attorneys, real estate brokers, merchants, and phone calls and emails, and they are all not happy customers, which makes the importance of communication that much harder. Jackie already has a good grip on how to handle many of the questions and complaints that involve computer input, scheduling of building inspections, research of properties for title companies, public demand to review proposed new construction, set agendas for all board meetings, help with monthly reports, and accounting of fees for processing by the village treasurer. Jackie is a great help to working under Diane's direction and also works well with everyone in the building department. And also public comments have been stated how great it is to work with Jackie and Diane in the front office of the building department. We were proud to have Jackie on board with us as an employee of the month. And my wife was in there. Jackie had no idea who my wife was. My wife was asking her questions. And my wife came home and said, "This wonderful lady working in the building department," and it was you, Jackie, and so we're very proud that you're here tonight and that we get to recognize you as the employee of the month. So we have took your picture, which is going to be up in Village Hall, and I'm sure John Foster will. Nice plaque for you.
You'll see when we show up.
Yeah, right.
Congratulations, thanks. That's the thing on your wall of fame there at home, right? Yeah, or over your desk, and great. So good job.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At a time when there's a lot of contentious applications that are coming through the different boards, the quality of the people working and handling the public is extremely important, and Jackie, you do a great job, so thank you. We've got public comment section here. We had people sign up, and I misplaced it. It was John Bennett.
Just give it there.
That's on the hearing.
Okay. Evelyn Conrad.
Good evening. Evelyn Conrad, 18 South Roscoe Drive. I'm objecting to the resolution that would have you ratify and approve minutes from the last meeting without them having been read or even discussed or revealed. One of the reasons, of course, is that there's been a dreadful history of this board of having votes that have not been recorded in the minutes. And of late, a total misquoting of something I said to this board about 2-3 meetings ago, which minutes said that I had asked you to ask for Curtis Highsmith's resignation because he had lectured to people, which of course is not at all what I said. And the DVD of that particular meeting, which is currently being transcribed, shows that. What I said is that you should ask for his resignation because in an open ARB meeting, he said that every owner had a right to a house of 5,000, 6,000, or 10,000 square feet, at which point your mayor said that is not a correct statement, and I added that incorrect statement is known as a lie. That has not been corrected. Therefore, I certainly object very strongly to your ratifying any minutes of any meeting whatsoever that we have not seen or publicly heard. We would like to see copies. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public would like to speak? Okay, so we'll close the public comment. We have no board presentations. We have a continuation of a public hearing. Proposed local law establishing a building moratorium for buildings exceeding certain height limits. Patients, Rick?
Okay, we've had numerous public hearings, on this proposed local law, and since the last meeting, we have received the report and recommendation of the Suffolk County Planning Commission, and you have in front of you a proposed written resolution for your consideration tonight. You should first ask if there's anybody that wants to add anything in the way of public comments before we close the hearing.
Hey, anyone from the public would like to speak? Mr. Bennett?
Thank you, as always, for the opportunity to speak. For the numerous clients, I, of course, object to the enactment of the moratorium, but there's a guy by the name of, originally by the name of Zimmerman, who I think one time said you don't need to be a weatherman to see which way the wind blows. So, assuming, arguendo, that you were to adopt the moratorium this evening, I would ask you to avoid, in order to avoid any confusion regarding the effective date of the moratorium, because I've looked for authority on it, and it's not clear to me. The law says that it is effective upon filing with the Secretary of State. Does that mean that you have to have an acknowledgement, as you often do in government agencies, that the Secretary of State has received it? Or is the evidence that you sent it to the Secretary of State enough? So I would ask you to, if you're going to send it to the Secretary of State, to send it on Tuesday. Now, I'll tell you why, and I'll also tell you that I don't really have anything up my sleeve with that, okay? I'll just cards all out on the table.
Take off your jacket, please.
Excuse me? If you take off yours, Bill. Okay. So we have, there are two matters that I have on the Architectural Review Board calendar for Tuesday. One is 450 Meadow Lane. It's Mr. Smith's neighbor. There's no way that hearing is going to be closed. Mr. Smith's lawyer, Jeff Bragman, has stated that he has about an hour-and-a-half presentation, so at best the meeting would be closed after that. It's in the Historic District. There's no decision would be rendered. So they will have to come to you for an exemption. But I think that the board, to avoid any confusion as to when the effective date is, should let that Tuesday hearing go. Again, that's in the Historic District. It requires a written decision. I've never seen the board. The board actually cannot act with without a written decision, and I've never seen them close a hearing, after an hour-and-a-half presentation by an objectant. And in any event, even if they were, hypothetically, which they can, were to issue an approval, the building department could not issue a building permit without coming to you and asking for some sort of relief under the moratorium. The other one we have is 320 Murray Place. I think Mr. Jacobson was here speaking with you quite eloquently and passionately about what he relied on in terms of the building height. Again, the no building permit could issue. Mr. Jacobson is still going to have to come before you and ask you for an exemption to the moratorium, and you're going to decide that in due course. So there's no danger of a building permit being issued. And I think that the board may well, for better or for worse for my clients, benefit from some of the comment that the Architectural Review Board had on it, because that might be helpful to you. And also, you avoid this confusion as to the actual effective date of the moratorium. It's obviously something that you don't have to decide tonight, but I would make that respectful request from you, assuming you do go forward with passing this law. Again, why am I asking you this? I think it avoids the confusion. I haven't been able to find any authority about when that actually is effective. Boards and municipalities and courts will tell you until it's acknowledged, the receipt is acknowledged. So it may not happen for a couple of days, and then you get into a discussion or then you get into an argument over whether or not the meeting should have gone forward on Tuesday night or should not have gone forward. So I think you sidestep that procedural and effective date question, and again, all the cards out on the table. I'm not trying to gain any sort of unfair advantage of it. For these two applications of mine, John Foster would still be prevented from issuing a building permit. So I ask you to take that under advisement. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public would like to speak? Okay. No further comment. Anyone from the board? Further comments from the board? Rick, I think we're in a position where we want to take some action here
The
tonight.
first thing would be a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next thing would be a motion to adopt the written resolution presented at this meeting, which written resolution shall be annexed to the minutes of this meeting. You have in front of you the written resolution.
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution.
I mean, if you want me to read it, I can.
I think you should.
I think it's important that we
I think you should read
We have
it.
a lot of
Okay. I'll read it. Whereas the Village of Southampton has referred this proposed local law to the Suffolk County Planning Commission, and whereas the Suffolk County Planning Commission considered said referral at its meeting on October 1, 2014, and adopted a resolution recommending modification of the proposed local law and approving the proposed local law subject to the recommended modification. And whereas the recommended modification recommends that the local law include additional findings that confirm the necessity of the moratorium, including findings that further indicate what recent circumstances have occurred that justify the adoption of the moratorium and how serious and urgent these circumstances are, and more explicit findings regarding the conditions that mandate the imposition of the moratorium, and whether there are no other alternatives that are less burdensome on property rights. And whereas pursuant to applicable law, the Village Board of Trustees may act contrary to said recommendation by vote of a majority plus one of the entire membership of the Village Board of Trustees in a resolution that sets forth its reasons for acting contrary to said recommendation, its reasons for not adopting said recommendation. And whereas the Village Board of Trustees has considered said recommendation and for reasons hereinafter set forth, has concluded that said recommendation should not be adopted and that the proposed local law should be enacted without making the recommended modification. Resolved that the Village Board of Trustees hereby determines to act contrary to said recommendation of the Suffolk County Planning Commission and to enact the proposed local law without making the recommended modification for the following reasons. 1. Said recommendation appears to reflect a legal conclusion of the Suffolk County Planning Commission that the text of the local law should and/or must contain detailed findings with respect to facts and circumstances justifying the validity of the local law. In other words, said recommendation appears to constitute legal advice rather than a recommendation based on planning or zoning principles or policies. 2. There is no legal requirement that the text of a local law must contain detailed findings with respect to facts and circumstances justifying the validity of the local law. In the event of an action challenging the validity of a local law, the local legislative body may present to the court evidence with respect to facts and circumstances justifying the validity of the local law. 3. Section 1 of the proposed local law contains findings with respect to the purpose of the local law. Such findings identify a legitimate public purpose for enactment of the proposed moratorium. 4. Prior to and during the course of the legislative process with respect to the proposed local law, the Village Board of Trustees has identified relevant circumstances which recently came to the attention of the Village Board of Trustees. Such circumstances show, among other things, that where a one-family dwelling must be elevated to comply with revised flood damage prevention regulations, the project can involve a significant increase in the required elevation and a significant increase in height in relation to natural grade. In the event of an action challenging the validity of the moratorium, the Village Board of Trustees may present to the court evidence with respect to facts and circumstances justifying the validity of the moratorium, including facts and circumstances which recently came to the attention of the Village Board of Trustees. 5, the proposed moratorium is a narrow moratorium. It only applies to projects involving a one-family dwelling with a proposed height which exceeds 35 feet or 27 feet in the case of a flat roof pitch, measured from the average elevation of the natural grade along the front of the dwelling. Furthermore, the proposed moratorium is of short duration, 6 months. Moreover, the proposed moratorium contains a provision, Section 8, for seeking an exemption from the moratorium. Thus, the proposed moratorium recognizes property rights. 6, the alternative to enactment of the proposed moratorium is to allow building permits and other approvals to be issued for one-family dwellings involving a proposed height which exceeds 35 feet or 27 feet in the case of a flat roof pitch, measured from the average elevation of the natural grade along the front of the dwelling during the period of the proposed moratorium, the period which will provide an opportunity for the Village Planning Commission to complete the planning work referred to in Section 1 of the proposed local law, and for the Village Board of Trustees to consider said planning work. Such alternative would result in a permanent impact on the neighborhood and community from the construction permitted by such building permits. 7, if the proposed local law were revised so as to set forth additional findings in the text of the local law in accordance with the recommendation of the Suffolk Planning Commission, that would further delay enactment of the proposed moratorium. In addition to the inherent delay involved in drafting and reviewing additional findings to be set forth in the text of a revised local law, there are related procedural issues which would need to be considered in connection with enactment of a revised local law. 8, enactment of the proposed moratorium without further delay is in the public interest. Further delay would be contrary to the public interest. The circumstances are sufficient to justify enactment of the proposed moratorium. There is no need to set forth additional findings in Section 1 of the proposed local law. And it is further resolved that the Village Board of Trustees hereby enacts this proposed local law as Local Law Number 4 of 2014.
I'll make a motion to,
Again, it will be a motion to adopt the written resolution presented at this meeting, which written resolution should be annexed to the minutes of this meeting.
Second.
Second.
And you need a roll call vote.
Roll call vote. Trustee Yaz?
Aye.
Trustee Irving?
Aye.
Mayor Epley?
aye.
Trustee McCann?
Aye.
Trustee Hetrick?
And aye.
So moved.
Okay, it's enacted.
Also, just as a follow-up to that, because it's a 6-month moratorium, our goal here is to get this done before this. We have a proposal in front of us from Nelson Pope and Voorhees, which is it's a FEMA elevation zoning height requirements study, scope and cost of services in the Village of Southampton. It is a multi-page document here with, this was reviewed by Paul Travis from the Planning Commission, myself, and Chick Voorhees, and it basically goes through to do a FEMA elevation and zoning height requirement study report. Identify, do interviews and review of historic patterns, building permit application standards and review, inventory of the study area and application regulations, a municipal code review, which involves looking at the villages and the towns, develop preliminary findings and recommendations, and do a hypothetical analysis, and then make recommendations for change to the village zoning height, bulk, story definitions, etc. code. The cost is, estimated cost is $36,910. And it's a very, very, very thorough study of the village and with the height requirements and stuff. So I think it's important when we act on this, because I talked to Chick and they said, tomorrow we're doing this and we're going to work on this. So I'd like to make a motion to hire Nelson Pope and Voorhees for the purpose of the FEMA elevation zoning height requirement study in accordance with their letter dated October 8, 2014, for $36,910.
Second.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Okay. All right, so I think we're moving forward on this. I think everybody's behind us on this, and let's get the issue resolved and put it to rest, so that way we can address other issues. So I'm sure there's going to be other things that pop up, so, great work on the resolution.
Thank you.
Thanks to the community for coming out and providing input, either whether you're in favor of it or against it. It was an important process to us, and we're thankful for everybody for stepping up. So let's take it to the next level here. So, all right. Okay. We have communications to the board here.
One board communication from Little Lucy's Pet Parade. It's that time of year again. Little Lucy's would like permission to hold their pet parade October 25th, Saturday, at 1 to 3 p.m. 3:30 p.m. This year would be benefit the Southampton Animal Shelter. 100% of all proceeds will go directly to the shelter. We sponsor our annual Halloween pet parade to raise animal awareness in our community. The people enjoy being a part of it, and it educates our community about the local rescue organizations that desperately need funds. Our parade starts at Little Lucy's, 91 Jobs Lane, and continues up the sidewalk to Main Street. We cross the street in front of Hildreth's department store, then turn back down towards Jobs Lane and back to Little Lucy's for costume awards and merchant raffle prizes. As usual, we will again need police help to safely cross the street at Hildreth's, then on the corner of Main and Jobs Lane to return. About 40 dogs usually come. We truly greatly appreciate the support and cooperation of this board. Your caring is what makes Southampton so great. Sincerely, Patricia Hurley, Little Lucy's.
Make a motion to authorize the Little Lucy's Halloween Pet Parade in accordance with their application.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, resolutions. Resolved with the reading of the minutes for the work session of September 23rd, 2014 be dispensed with, and those minutes be accepted as filed by the village administrator. The actions taken at that meeting be and hereby are ratified and approved. Have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Aye.
Resolved that the claims for the warrants dated October 9th, 2014, totaling $292,994.88. Warrant 7, General Fund, $3,196, and $24,449.28. Warrants 5 and 10, Trust Funds, and $61,148.92. Warrant 5, Capital Reserve Fund, and the village payrolls for the period from September 19th, 2014 to October 2nd, 2014 be ordered and approved. Have a motion?
Make the motion.
Second? Discussion? Warrant 7, page 2, Cast Productions, going on to page 3, $1,729.50. Video services for September. Clearly Consulting on 248 Moses Lane, $1,200. Commission of Taxation and Finance, third quarter MTA tax, $8,952.97. Corzini Asphalt, the final payment on the drainage work at Bowden Square, $21,974. Page 4, Rick DePetris, Article 78 legal fees for East End Holdings versus ZBA and John Forster, $6,000. Firematic Supply, generator for the fire department, $14,227.05. Julie Fitzgerald, final payment on the 2014 September Fest, $12,500. This is a little higher than usual because we redesigned the logos and the website, so she didn't spend extra time on that. Page 6, flowing on to page 8, Herrick Hardware, September supplies for $1,981.68. Page 9, John Waite Associates, Community Preservation Grant Presentation Workshop, $1,500. Johnson Electrical Construction Corp., Traffic Signal Maintenance for September, $1,350. Page 10, Lynch's Garden Center Supplies for September, $3,059.87. Page 11, Radio Communications, Replacement Antenna at Cooper's Beach, $1,160. Messiano Consulting, Grant Writing Services through October 3rd, $3,612.50. Morgan Auto Supply, going on to page 12, September supplies, $1,637.07. Page 13, Nextel Communications, cell phone bill for September, $1,024.49. Page 14, Norsec and Sons, carting for September, $5,458.50. New York State Unemployment Insurance for the third quarter of 2014, $2,176.75. Otis Ford, repairs to a Parks truck, $1,440.74. Page 15, Pitney Bowes Fire Department mail, $1,618.81. PKSB, also presentation on community preservation, $1,500. Workshop. Postmaster, $1,693.28. Mailing for the upcoming ambulance barn. PSE&G, September bills for the building department, $2,750.29 and $3760.06. Street lighting bill, $4,943.53. Page 16. PSEG for police department, $4,509.61 and fire department, $5,418.72. Read the uniform tailor, PD uniforms, $2,305 and $2,794.50. 17, Revico Electrical Supply for the building department, building maintenance department, $1,217.45, and on to page 18, $1,047.24. Page 19, Riverhead Building Supply, ceiling tile for the upstairs renovation, $4,672.33. Suffolk County Board of Elections, a June bill which we never received for the general election, $1,216.86. Page 20, Stryker EMS equipment, transport share for the new ambulance, $2,169. Page 21, Suffolk County National Bank, principal and interest of the DPW ambulance equipment bond, $100,522.50. United Metro Energy, 2,200 gallons of gas, $6,050. Wainscott Sand and Gravel, Highway Supplies, $4,568.64. Page 2, WB Mason, wide format printer for DPW, $1,786.49. Page 23, WMJ Mills and Company, replacement truck cover for the brush truck, $2,618, and two payments for flood insurance, $3,497 and $2,620. Next warrant is the CS trust warrant, two payments to Gregory Mensch for tax sale redemptions, $4,806.01 and $19,643.27. Last warrant is a capital reserve warrant. Chief Fire and Safety Equipment Replacement Lift Bags, $42,435.92. Code 20 Graphics, Fire Police Gear, $1,050. General Code Publishers, a 50% deposit on the remote access for the public for the Building Inspector's Office and the tax services, $4,750. And J Construction payment towards the outside stairs, $12,913. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The bond resolution, the amount of $5,650,000 to finance the construction of the new ambulance building. Special village election for the approval or disapproval of this resolution will be held at the Southampton Village Veterans Center, 25 Pond Lane, Southampton, New York, on October 31st, 2014, from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. We have the full resolution in the book here, and also the secret negative deck in front of that.
Okay, before you act on the bond resolution, you should first act on the negative declaration.
Okay. Let's act on the negative declaration first.
Based upon the SECRA paperwork presented by our environmental consultant for this meeting, the Board of Trustees hereby finds and determines that the proposed village ambulance center will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment.
Rich, you want to make that resolution?
I would like to make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye. Let's act on the bond resolution too.
I'm going to make the resolution, the bond resolution, to go to vote on October 31st, 2014, from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Veterans Center, 25 Pond Lane.
Second?
We need to put the amount in there, $5,650,000. I'll second that.
Roll call vote, trustee Yaz,
Aye.
trustee Irving,
Aye.
Mayor Epley,
Aye.
trustee McGann,
Aye.
trustee Hatcher.
Aye.
Gonna have a Halloween vote
Halloween vote.
for lamb and ambulance.
I'm in costume.
That's right.
Costumes
Dressed
required.
as a first responder.
Item 4, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the appointing of the following individuals as election inspectors for the village special election on October 31st, 2014. Gina Aresta, 12 to 9, $25 an hour. Georgette Chapek, 12 to 9, $20 an hour. Gail Reesig, 12 to 9, $20 an hour. Mariette Pincus, 12 to 9, $20 an hour. Rachel Foster, 12 to 9, $20 an hour. Betty Nichols, 12 to 9, $20 an hour. And Diane Fisher, 12 to 9, $25 an hour. Motion?
Make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, and you have to say that, I mean, we have the bond vote, and the ambulance has got a lot of support from a lot of the community. I know the Southampton Association stepped up to talk about doing a fundraiser for them, and I think they've come in here and shown the need for the barn and the space and the volume of the activity that's occurring, and I'm very fortunate to have such a great group of volunteers that are supporting this community at the level that they are, and the response time is fantastic. So it's a great, and they're a tremendous asset. I think this will be a great addition. I hope that people will step up and support this bond vote, and it's very important to this community. So
Well said,
thanks.
All right, Item 5, resolved that Barbara Wilson, Justice of the Incorporated Village of Southampton, is hereby authorized and directed to file an application for funds from the State of New York Unified Court System under its Justice Court 2014 Assistance Program in an amount not to exceed $30,000, and upon approval of said request to enter into and execute a project agreement with the state for such financial assistance to this Incorporated Village of Southampton for office, audiovisual, and other equipment for the court facility. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. We had entered into this agreement last year for 2013, and we received full reimbursement for equipment within the court offices, and she's looking to put in a copier within the court room itself, not to exceed $3,000, and this will be fully funded through this grant.
Great.
All in favor?
Aye.
Last item, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following payments from the Capital Reserve Fund, subject to permissive referendum. Jamie Construction, $12,913 from Facilities Reserve. Chief Fire and Safety Equipment, $42,435.92 from the Fire Truck Reserve. General Code Publishers, $4,750 from the Office Equipment Reserve. And Code 20 Graphics, $1,050 from the Fire Equipment Reserve. Got a motion?
Make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, we've no discussion items here.
One discussion item that I mentioned to you briefly, just as we were walking in. Your next meeting is on October 21. Normally it would be 5 p.m. I have a matter up the island that day, and I won't be able to be back until probably somewhere around 6 p.m.
Okay.
So I would suggest, if it's okay with you guys, to change the time of that meeting to 6 p.m. And if I'm running a little late, you can do other things that don't need me before I get here.
Need you anyway.
Otherwise, you might be done before I get here.
No. We'll,
Unless any of the trustees talk too much.
Wait, looking at my point.
That might be.
no, I'll make a motion to change the Tuesday, October 21st board meeting to 6 o'clock.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Thanks for reminding us. All right. Any comments here? Rich?
Just first, just to expand a little bit on the ambulance barn again, just want to as the mayor said, everybody, the support so far the community has given. The SVVA has performed as well as they have because they've had constant support from the board and the community. So in advance, I thanks for the continued support on their behalf. And also, along with that, next Wednesday, I believe, right, the 15th,
15th.
there is an open house at the SVVA building to once again and finally show for anybody else who hasn't yet seen it or who still would like a refresher course on what the current building looks like and ask any questions. It is at the SVVA current ambulance headquarters on Meeting House Lane. I believe it's at
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. So again, any last questions you have before this goes to vote on the 31st, swing by that and check it out and take a look at what's going on there. And of course, drawings and renderings and so forth will be there. So I ask people to show up for that. And secondly, I do want to make, on a very good note, I want to send out a very happy birthday to someone who's a long-time resident of this village and also an aunt of mine. She celebrates today, this very day, the 9th, her 100th birthday.
Yeah.
And her name is Edna Francis Calenda, and she happens to be coincidentally my aunt as well, so I want to send out a happy birthday to you, Aunt Edna. And it's a good 100 years. You've seen a lot of these board meetings. I know you watch this stuff on TV and read the papers, so you've seen a lot. I think Rick's been around for most of them. Bill's actually been around for a good chunk of them in different decades. So, and I know you pay attention and you've been a very good, you've been a long-time resident, obviously, and a very good supporter of everything that goes on in the village. So again, happy birthday to you. Happy 100th birthday. And we'll see you Saturday at your party. And I believe, Mayor, you would...
Well, we want to memorialize this with a resolution declaring October 9th, 2014, Edna Francis Calenda Day in the village of Southampton. And on behalf of the Village Board of Trustees and all the residents around here, we wish you a very happy birthday. So I'll make that motion.
I'll gladly second that.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Great. Thanks.
That's all I have.
Okay. Right.
Well, 100 years is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
You gotta admit,
Yeah,
you know.
that is.
I think we all should wish her the most happiest birthday around today and hope that she's well. On another note, you know, a big percentage of my time is addressing complaints on building issues and houses are going up and people claiming pools are incorrect and stuff. And I just really want to express that I think this entire board is very sincere about taking a close look at all these projects. Some we can do stuff with, some we can't do with it, but certainly the moratorium and our efforts with the moratorium are an indication that we are trying our best to address some of these issues, and there are many issues, and building is in a spurt in the village, and it's more than what has been seen in the past, so it's a lot to deal with. And I just want to thank everybody on the board for taking a close look at the moratorium and acting quickly. And especially the mayor's really been supportive of it.
Well, we all have, so thanks for recognizing that. Nancy?
I don't really have that much. Do we want to talk about going to the meeting at the Suffolk County Planning Commission? We all went to the Suffolk County Planning Commission meeting, was it last week? Thursday?
10 was, yep.
Yeah,
It was
Last
last Wednesday. Primarily to see the reaction to the moratorium, because we knew that was coming up. And the mayor got up and spoke, and I think made some very clear points. And they were unanimous in their vote for the moratorium. Afterwards, several of us stayed because the town was there talking to the Suffolk County Planning Commission regarding the County Road 39 and their study, which I thought was very interesting because they basically were laying out ideas that they had and changes that they would like to make. And some of the properties that they intend to preserve along County Road 39, one being the driving range, the other being the Elks property. I spoke with the mayor. You had indicated that none of those had been really set aside as of yet. So they're not really,
I know that the driving range has been in front of the CPF advisory committee a couple of times, but I think because of the commercial use of the property, it makes it very difficult to use CPF. But they'd have to subdivide the property is what they would have to do.
right.
To
So
preserve
I
part
kind
it,
of
yeah.
felt like that was being put in front of the planning commission, showing that they were planning to do this when in fact there's nothing that
Right.
is concrete there.
Right.
So I feel that we should write to the planning commission and say that there's nothing has, they really don't have arrangements on either of these properties. I think it's important because it paints a picture for a project that they did not put on the table, and the project is the Tuckahoe Village. They have not discussed that. They did not bring it out. They never brought it up. They talked about changing the size of the office buildings that they wanted from 5,000 to 10,000 square feet, but never once did they bring up the Tuckahoe project. So I think we have to inform the Planning Commission that we feel this is where this is going eventually.
Yeah, I mean, one of our biggest concerns is also having 39 turn into 58.
Right.
And one only has to have experienced the limb cutting by PSC&G, their contractors, and what happened the other day. And can you imagine a series of stores along County Road 39 with multiple lights and the impact it would have on traffic flow?
I mean, we already know that County Road 39, many of the people who travel on that road are turning off onto all of our little side streets. We see an increase in the traffic on all of our little side streets. If they now have a supermarket that has that you can access through all of our little side streets, we know that will increase the amount of traffic. If you have a turning lane on County Road 39 that goes to Sandy Hollow, which really sends you out to the North Sea area, do you really think that people are going to come from the North Sea area, get onto County Road 39, get in a turning lane to turn into the supermarket? They're never going to do that. They're going to go down North Sea Road, they're going to turn up West Prospect, they're going to go all along Moses, they're going to come in that area, and that is just going to increase all of the traffic there. And people who'll stop and pick up things, they're not going to get they're not going to get out of the supermarket in gridlock, and they're going to find another way, and it will be through our village. And there isn't any traffic study that will make me think otherwise. So we really have to stay on top of this, and, you know, I think we need to communicate with the Planning Commission.
Yeah, can I just add something to that? I'm glad you brought that up, Nancy, because attending that the other day, to me, was very educational, because I got to see how they work, and to no necessary fault of them, but I also realized that a good amount of members on that board aren't really in tune with what the unique situations we have here in the East End, and they're not just aware of all the concerns. So just like if anybody's presenting in front of us, if we don't know all the facts, you only know what's presented in front of you. So I think you were there, and there were some members of the Southampton Association, Jay was there, and some others, and they noticed it as well, that people we're dependent upon their input and their recommendations, yet some of them don't really have a true understanding of what goes on out here, and that's important that we do keep in communication.
Well, I thought it was interesting because one of the members of the Planning Commission, the Suffolk County Planning Commission, is from North Haven. Another one is from East Hampton. So the question that came up to the planner from the town, Kyle, the planner from the town, was that road is very important to lots of different areas out here. It's important to North Haven because people turn off there and head out Noyak. It's important to East Hampton. Most people travel that road in order to get here. Are you including the villages in this study? And his answer was yes. They have not included us in that study. I went back and asked the mayor, have you ever been invited to any part of that study? He said no. We have not been included in that study. It's wrong. We have to be included in that study.
And part of the problem with that study is probably a 16 or 17-year-old study.
Right.
So they may
Well,
have
that should
had
be brought up
previous
as well.
administrations that they've spoken to, but obviously things
So-
have changed.
Yeah, so it might be an accurate statement, but
Right.
a dated,
Yeah.
a dated accurate statement.
A decade and a half ago. So, but no, it's true. So, okay. Anything
So that's
else?
no, that's it.
No, great points. So, thank you, Bill.
Just one simple thing that I was happy to see, I think, concluded today, the repair of the walkway and the little deck at the end of Dune Beach finally has been completed. I was down there talking to the men, and they were working on it. And it looks great, and it desperately needed it. And of course, earlier in the spring, they had excavated around it so that the sand and the seagrass and that was growing through it, it had really been overwhelmed by the shifting of the sands and so on. And they suggested that they may want to put some snow fence around maybe 3 sides of it to try and keep sand from overwhelming it again. But and just talking to them, they enjoyed the work. And that deck is 12 by 24, which is probably about a quarter of the size of this room. And frankly, periodically, I think classes from school go there and so on, and it's just a remarkable thing to see. Every time I look at it, I can't believe what our coastline used to look like. And I would love to see us maybe double the size of the deck. I once mentioned putting a canopy over it because lots of people like to get out of the sun, forget the canopy. But they said they could do it very easily, very simply on the north side. Just expand it, and you're talking about the cost of the lumber. And I think at some point we should consider doing that and make it available so that school classes could go there and study the environment that we once had and so on. And it's a remarkable piece. But anyhow, I'm delighted that they have completed the work. And beyond that, why, there's hopefully some road paving coming on Gin Lane down in the east end of the village. In that area, some of that roadway has really gotten badly torn up and so on, and so I think that's coming, but it's not yet a done deal. And beyond that, I have nothing else to say.
Well, they did a great job on Halsey Neck.
Halsey
And they
Neck
did
really
a
looks terrific.
great
Yeah.
job up on
Horseshoe
the,
Road
up on
looks
the
great.
hill. And
Yes,
the,
yeah, Horseshoe Road,
Horseshoe
the hill
Road.
looks
Great.
terrific. Yeah.
that
And
all
they just
got
painted
painted
the
and looks
roadways
really
this
sharp.
week and so on, and so that's
That's good.
happy moment.
Yeah, I just would like to just bring up a few things here. One is in Brooklyn where they put the speed camera up, and the chief is here, and I wanted to see what the chief thought about speed cameras in the village of Southampton. Some of these back roads so I had some of the residents here. So I'm going to put you on the spot here, Chief, and
Can't stand those things.
you can't stand them. Well, because you don't know what a brake is.
I'm not a
Okay,
fan
you
of
just
those.
gear down and power slide through the corners and
Fan of
stuff.
cameras.
It's interesting because the article that came out in the Post, it was generating
Well,
70
that's why.
something
That's all it
thousand
is.
dollars a day.
It's about
I
producing
don't-
revenue.
Day?
It's not about enforcing the law.
But it's not about that. But it was really all about the situation in which they had really high speeds going into a school zone and not great capabilities of enforcement to slow people down. So, and I know we have a lot of back roads we see, as Nancy was talking about, the cut throughs and stuff. I don't know what your comments, your feelings are about that.
I'm
As I catch
opposed
it
to
completely
speed
off guard.
cameras, generally speaking.
What's-
I don't feel like it, I mean, I guess they are legal, but I don't think they're fair. And I think in America, you want to have the opportunity to face your accuser and see if they made a mistake. And I don't think that's really, I mean, I'm sure there's procedures. I just don't think in talking to the people, because they have the red light cameras for, up west, and guys that get, my wife got caught with the red light camera. There's no way that you can really fight that.
Yeah.
And I think that people don't feel like, this is just a fairness argument, that it's
Right,
fair.
right, yeah.
Secondly, we don't have really the mechanism in place in the village. I mean, I'm sure it could be put in place to do that, because we don't have a scofflaw. And if someone gets a speed ticket and decides not to pay it, there's nothing we can do about it but send them letter after letter saying, hey, we'd like you to pay this.
Right.
So, like I said, that can be
Where
remedied.
the city's different than a
Yeah,
village.
right.
Okay, yeah.
Why would that be? I don't
It
understand that.
just has to be, Rick would know better than I, but I'm not sure, we just don't have it.
I don't know how it works in.
Yeah. So,
Couldn't it become a mark on your license if you don't pay these tickets?
No, 'cause you have to
I
fix
think
an
the New York
accuser
State
first.
Legislature has to enact laws that allow us to do those things, and right now, we don't have
If
that.
you actually go to court and
Well, I
face
think
your
it's something
accuser.
we could look into for
We
the
ought to
future.
look into it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're saying you can stiff the village
No.
and just walk away?
Well, not
Right now, you
that, but,
can.
I mean, from my experience, I've seen most law enforcement, pardon me speaking for you, but expounding what you just said, either against it or they're ambivalent. What I do find the most legislatures are in for it because of the money. And I don't think that's the right reason to incorporate
No,
something.
I'm only thinking in terms of these long stretches on these back roads where we do have high speeds, and it occurs in the morning time. Yeah,
Like
Moses,
Moses
Prospect
or
Street.
West
Prospect Street.
See, the other problem is that perceived speed and actual speed are not the same thing. Like, we'll send guys, and even when I was a young cop, we used to get sent up to West Prospect Street all the time. And we generally, for legal reasons, don't write a ticket unless you're going 10 miles over the speed limit. Speedometer, deviations, and, just margin of error when you're driving. You're not driving looking at your speedometer. And when you're doing, say, 40 miles an hour on West Prospect Street, it seems pretty fast. I mean, even when you're the driver, but if you're doing, say, 39, and I'm not going to write you the ticket for 39, there's not a whole lot of difference. So as the cop sitting there on the side of the road running radar, you don't look like you're going very fast to me. So it's tough for us to, you go by somebody's house, it's loud, it seems really fast, but when I'm doing what I do as a cop, I'm not writing you that ticket. It's just not
It
something.
just seems to me where there's a straightaway, that's where people stick their
Yeah,
foot
I
on
mean,
the accelerator.
I have.
And so you have these streets where they see, oh, I have all this distance between here and Hill Street.
You're right.
Let me hit the accelerator, I'm going to get down there really fast. And I know even on my little street, I'm off of County Road 39, and if it's backed up, they get on my little street and they hit the accelerator and fly down my street, and there's children there.
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about here.
Well,
That's why I think we should look into it.
We can look into it, I'm opposed to it. So, you asked my opinion.
Yeah, I did. It was unsolicited, completely caught you off guard and stuff like that, and, but it was just.
I think
somebody
we
had
could
sent
do
me an
more,
email.
I mean, look,
Send
you
you an
you
email
have
on that
to,
one?
Yeah,
as a police department, we can't be everywhere at once,
right.
Right. Well, that's the
and
point.
we try, and we're actually 25% ahead on enforcement this year than we were last year, and the last 2 years, and that was about 25% of 3 years ago.
Right.
So we really have stepped up our enforcement. You're not going to catch everybody.
Right.
Don't you feel, though, that, for instance, the speed monitors on Hill Street, that you're supposed to be doing 25 miles an hour on Hill Street, when you come down up further, and you come down onto Hill Street, whenever I come off of that, I'm always looking at that, because I'm always thinking to myself, I'm only supposed to be doing 25 miles an hour. Now, all of a sudden you see 29 up there, and then you reduce it down to 27, and you're down to 25. It helps. If people knew we had cameras on certain streets, they may not race
Then
around
they're
on
not
them.
going to go on that certain street, and they're going to speed down somebody else's street to avoid the speed camera. So I think it just displaces people from one road that they're speeding on to another road they're going to speed on. We just have to catch them. And we just have to even be more, do more enforcement, and just have a village-wide perception that you can't speed in the village of
Right.
Southampton. That's the only real solution to the problem.
Yeah, but it doesn't happen is the trouble.
Well, we used to, and we have to, we've been trying to strike a balance between people wanting to come here and enjoy the village and not being oppressive with enforcement. And I guess we're just going to have to step it up.
We do, because you don't speed in Quogue. Everybody knows that. You don't speed in Quogue.
And when I was a young guy, you didn't speed here either.
So, that's right, so, I appreciate the me putting you on the spot like that, Chief, so.
Okay.
So, I just wanted to just congratulate the group that put together September Fest. They did a fantastic job. It was well organized, and a lot of great events. The weather was fantastic, and congratulations to Golden Pear and Keith Davis, and they won the chowder contest.
What number was he? 9?
He was number
9, I think.
Nine,
Yeah.
number 9, yes. And the Pierce Concert Ferry Group, and they had the ribbon cutting, and they're going to continue to operate that. And it was a very nice, very nice. It was well attended by a lot of people who came out to watch that ribbon cutting. So great job to those groups. We have this weekend the Hamptons International Film Festival is going to be here. Great event starting tomorrow night. They open up, and the film festival actually did a lot of things in the village this summer. And they did a lot of the outdoor movies that we had at the Southampton Arts Center on the grounds at 25 Jobs Lane. They ran a summer camp here for kids for a week where they taught production, which was extremely positive. It was well attended there. And they had some inside movies that were supportive. So they've done a great job out here expanding into Southampton Village, and I hope that our community can step up and support them during the film festival this week. And we've got not only the pet parade, but we've also has the Ragamuffin parade that's coming up on October 26th. That's Sunday. I think it's an 11 o'clock start on that day, and on a Sunday. And I think it's, or is it 1? Okay, I got to double check that. I just said 11, then I thought about church. So, but it's run for the Chamber of Commerce, so it's always a good event. And next year I'll not only have I'll have 2 grandchildren. It's my oldest son is having a baby in May. So, so next year I'll have 2 grandchildren in the Ragamuffin Parade. I'm catching you, Mike.
Yeah, you're
I'm
catching up with me. I
I'm
was gonna
catching you,
say.
man. I'm catching you. I'm not going to catch you, Bill. There's no way. There's no way.
Bill's way ahead, you got a lead.
You are way out in front, man. Way out in
Bill's
front.
got a few teams coming.
Oh yeah, exactly. So, but you want to hear?
Any great grandchildren?
Yeah.
No,
So,
just 20 grandchildren.
yeah.
That's all.
So,
Lovely.
it is. So, and so that's the comments from the board. We have a second public comment section. Anybody from the public? Jay?
J.D. Singh, a resident of the village. Just wanted to thank all of the trustees, Rick, Steve, and I'm sure Brenda, for all the work that went into this. I mean, I saw firsthand going to the county, the meetings, the debate back and forth, and I really appreciate you identifying a problem, working, I think, on a collaborative basis to try and put something together. Obviously, there are a lot of cross currents, but I think we came up with a start on a solution, and I appreciate that very much. So I think that's a great model for us all, hopefully trying to be able to work together moving forward. And I think all of you know very well on the ambulance corps, but for people in our village who are not aware, or who perhaps fortunately in a sense haven't had to use their services, we are so lucky in Southampton Village to have the response time, the quality of the people who come and help, and also the fact that they are continuing to add members. I mean, clearly they're doing everything right. And so I think as a community, if we can support them, and the association has really committed to try and help with some fundraising in the spring so that we can help fit out some of the extras that are obviously going to be needed, and perhaps have a little bit of a kitty for a rainy day. So we appreciate the wonderful job that they have done, and obviously it's been with your support. So thank you.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you, Jay.
My name is Duran Telberg, and I live at 145 Wickapog Road in Southampton. I actually came here to speak my 3 minutes on a different subject, but if I could be allowed to make comments on the speeding thing.
Okay. There.
Okay.
Meeting on Wickapog?
Never
Yeah.
happens. Never happens. Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that I do support anything that can slow cars down. I know we've put multiple stop signs on Wickapog to try and slow down cars. Between the hours of 7 and 8 in the morning, I think is the most egregious of speeders that go really between 40 and 50 miles an hour. And there is no enforcement at all. And that's why they know they can do 40 or 50. And I know myself, now that there is, I would say, 50-50 chance of a police officer with radar at the end of Hill Street coming from Hampton Bays, I am very aware that going from that Montauk Highway through Shinnecock down around the corner into Hill Street, I need to put my brake on. And I really appreciate that. And, you know, I personally can't even, I used to walk from my house down to Old Town Road Beach, and I don't do that anymore because of the speeders. I had an incident where there was a large landscape truck with a trailer on the end of it. And I walk with the traffic coming towards me. And I was coming back up Old Town Road by the pond, and he was coming seriously very fast down the road. And he saw me, and he went out to go on the other side of the road, and the trailer jackknifed and almost hit me. So ever since that incident, I now drive down to the beach and I walk on the beach. So I think it is a serious problem, and I think there has been a great appreciation for the drunk driving arrests, and but I think a lot of that is compounded with speeding, you know, for the safety in the community. So I just want to make that comment.
Did you want anything else?
Yes,
Okay.
I have something else here, which is like, I'm
Well,
here
if you have a letter and you want to submit it to the board, but
No,
summarize it would be fine.
to
okay.
summarize it?
Yeah,
Okay.
if you
Well,
want
I
to.
did print out a copy
Okay,
of it.
Okay,
I don't know how to summarize
well,
it,
then
though.
go ahead.
Sorry.
Gotcha.
I can try to read really fast.
Okay,
It doesn't start till 8:30.
that's fine.
I'm here tonight because a couple of weeks ago I found out that a neighboring house, 107 Wickapog Road, was in front of the ZBA. I have an interest in this house because it was built by my great-great-grandfather, Moses Phillips, in the early 1800s, and the property has been in my family since the late 1600s as one of the first potato farms in Southampton Village. My great-grandfather was also born and raised in this house, as well as my grandfather. To my shock and dismay, upon reviewing the building department file, I found out this house was to be destroyed by the new owners to build a new house. Even though in doing this, they needed to conform to the existing setbacks for new homes, they went in front of the zoning board to destroy the house and keep the same setbacks. The ZBA has put this application on their agenda for their next meeting. After being born and raised on Wickapog, I have come to expect village officials to protect the historical homes. In fact, it was my understanding that any house built prior to 1926 would be extremely scrutinized and protected before it was allowed to be torn down. I have been to various Southampton Village Board meetings to see board members put up with the locals. I was at an ARB meeting for another reason where they approved the 3,500 square foot house on Burnett Street. This was after they politely listened to the neighbors and accepted the petition against this new house by every single homeowner on Burnett Street and the north side of Meeting House Lane. Every single one of them. The comment from the board was, well, the new people buying in Southampton expect to live in larger houses. If Southampton Village is lacking building lots for all the people that want to buy here, then the Village of Southampton has the upper hand, and they should at least require additions be built onto existing historical homes, or the homes moved to another part of the property and regarded as guest cottages. On Wickapog Road, only half the historical homes were recorded. I know this because I grew up on Wickapog, and I have family history and information of all the older properties on Wickapog. The 1979 survey by the SPLIA did not include half of them. Southampton Village received monies from New York State to do a new survey and was paid for the survey, and the survey was submitted to New York State. And I want to know why the survey has not been implemented yet. I have sent emails to all of you within the last 2 weeks with historical information documentation of 107 Wickapog. If the 2009 survey had been implemented by the village, I'm not sure I would be here tonight. The other question I have to the trustees is why Wickapog Road between Old Town Road and Narrow Lane has not been determined as historical to the village. I'm submitting a historical sign photo on the corner of Wickapog Road and Old Town Road that has been there all of my life, as well as the photo of a dedicated granite bench claiming that on this corner the home of Edward Howell, who was the founding father of Southampton, was here. So I will submit my letter.
Thank you, great.
I'll submit a photograph of the sign and of the granite bench. I have 2 submittals that I received from New York State Historic Preservation regarding the historical value of Wickapog Road. And I'm also going to submit the 2009 survey of historical properties. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Anyone else from the public would like to speak? Horace?
Horace Bliss, I'm a village resident. When you're heading east, just as you pass the Lobster Inn, I've forgotten the name of the road, you turn left. This is all related to traffic being forced down into the middle of the village and our side streets. The town of Southampton has closed that road during certain hours of the day. And when I did my research, it was stated that it was done to prevent, because there were children in the area, and prevent too much traffic on that road. I believe that by closing that road, anyone coming east on 39, essentially, if they're trying to find an alternative, squirrels right down into the village. And I don't know what authorities you have, but I wonder if we're talking about traffic in the village and County Road 39 and what Suffolk County is trying to do, that would be a normal way to open up a way so that traffic going up to Sag Harbor, up North Sea, can essentially move up that road and not come down 39. Thank you.
Yeah, that Sabonic Road is the name of the road. And that was actually shut, and that was closed for left-hand turns by the town, actually.
That's what I said.
Back before they did the widening of the road. And the reason behind it, because the traffic in front of Tuckahoe School in the morning time, back then, was so great, and it was backed up from the red light all the way up onto Sabonic, and it became a hazard for kids. They were being dropped off by their parents and difficult for buses to get in and out of there. And that's the reason why they shut it down. It's probably something we should go back to the town and ask them to revisit.
Do they still restrict it?
They still do.
I foiled for the resolution by town board, and they said nothing, at least I didn't find anything that related to the to Tuckahoe School.
Yeah.
But I have my own question is if they're driving all this traffic right down in the middle of the village, we have 3 schools here, and a library and other facilities. So town is using safety as a feature and driving it into the village.
Well, I was at the public hearings when they did that, because all 4 of my kids went through Tuckahoe.
Right.
And I was actually a parent who was dropping kids off at that point in time.
Right.
So I remember it, and the discussions around everything, and Vince Canusio was actually the town supervisor at the time when they did this. And so we could probably actually go back to them and ask them to revisit that.
That was back in the 1800s.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right, thanks.
Bill was on the
Anyway, Evelyn, and Deborah will be next.
In this evening's amicable atmosphere, perhaps I could bring up something that I've brought up in court papers, in letters to the editor, but maybe we can try it once again. I'm particularly moved by that lady's comments. I was, of course, totally familiar with Burnett Street, with Woolley Street, and let me see if we can open up some ears here. There are 2 boards that absolutely trample on people's civil rights. One is the ZBA, the other is the ARB. They are the worst enforcers that I've ever seen in my life, and I've seen some pretty awful stuff in Europe. in this country, I haven't seen as much of it. The ZBA, obviously, under Guidera, trampled on the, I think it was 37 people who objected to the Burnett Street problem. In Woolley Street, 47 Woolley Street, the ZBA gave an impermissible allowance to the spec builder on a hardship that didn't exist. He sold the place for about $3 million. He could have afforded the $125,000 to correct his violation of the pyramid law. I've never seen anything like that approved by a legitimate body of a government. The ARB was taken to the woodshed very nicely by Mr. Smith's lawyer, Mr. Bregman, the other day, for something that my lawyer, because when I first started having some problems with this village, I actually hired a lawyer. I was too fresh out of law school to try it myself. And that was the absurd imbalance between the time given to the spec builders or new owners or anyone who wants something big as compared to the neighbors who are objecting to it. Nobody wants to hear that. They're given 3 minutes to present an answer. This has happened to me, of course, for 8 years, as you may know, except you don't go to the ARB. I think it might be a wise thing to do. What I said about Curtis Highsmith still stands. That is what he said. You yourself said that's not a correct statement. I'm sure you remember it, even if the minutes don't mention it. There is such a thing as the Board of Trustees taking some responsibility. You can't stand off there and try to be the good guys when this is happening in your name. So I'm here to ask you, please, perhaps in this atmosphere of let's try to work together, will you please do something about the ZBA and the ARB? It's appalling. If you want details, I have innumerable letters to the editor, pages out of court documents that I'll be glad to give you. Otherwise, I would be going beyond my 3 minutes. Thank you.
Deborah.
Deborah Bates, Walnut Street. I just wanted to thank Trustee Irving for his comments and also Joanne for hers and previous speaker also. In your work with the ARB, I really would ask you to see if they can focus more on the historic aspect of the village. I think that every loss diminishes the historic district. There's going to be only more and more pressure going forward, more and more money. You can predict the arguments that will be coming, saying that the historic district has been so hollowed out that it has become a meaningless affectation here. It doesn't really exist. And I think that in your work with that board, to really remind them that you can't recreate authenticity. We have that here, and I think it's under siege. And something really, really should be done before it really is gone. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public would like to speak? So we're going to close the public comments and make a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing personal matters involving village legal matters.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.